friends. We're reading Gooseberry Park today, and we are on chapter 3 called Friends on page 13 if you want to follow along. Kona had been born in the family room of a 5th grade teacher. Remember Kona? Kona is the dog. Kona had been born in the family room of a 5th grade teacher on Paradise Lane. Stumpy had been born in a sugar maple near the south entrance of Gooseberry Park, and Gwendolyn had been born in a palm tree on an island somewhere in the Caribbean. Now remember, Gwendolyn is the hermit crab, Kona is the dog, and Stumpy is the squirrel. It was a miracle that the three had ever found each other. Of course, this was mostly Professor Albert's doing. He was a retired biology professor who loved to grow daylilies and listen to the saxophone. Professor Albert had never married, liked living alone, and all the years he was a professor, he never minded the fact that he had no family. He was too busy teaching the cell structures of amphibians. But after he retired and found himself home so much of the time, he began to grow a little lonely. And when he started talking back to the radio, "Oh yes, I love outpatient care too," he realized he needed a pet. So he bought himself a hermit crab. She was the loveliest of all the crabs in the pet store. Her shell was creamy white with wavy brown lines flowing across it. She was quite big, twice the size of other crabs, and Professor Albert found her enchanting. So he brought her home from the store in a little paper box and named her Gwendolyn and became her friend. There's Gwendolyn. Here she is. Gwendolyn turned out to be a wonderful companion. Professor Albert carried her bowl from room to room in the house, depending on what needed doing. If he was in the kitchen baking banana bread, Gwendolyn was on the kitchen counter. If he was in the living room watching television, Gwendolyn was on the coffee table. If he was writing letters in his study, Gwendolyn was on the desk. Professor Albert knew that Gwendolyn liked him because she always pulled her head far out from her shell to look at him when he talked to her. "Gwendolyn, did you know that each giraffe's markings are unique?" As the professor spoke, Gwendolyn's delicate antennae moved gracefully back and forth. She's got 2 antennae moving gracefully. Having been a teacher, he was quite good at picking out careful listeners, and it was nice having her. Professor Albert was very happy with his hermit crab, and he had no plans at all to get a dog. He didn't know he needed one. He had never even thought about it. But one day, one of his neighbors who had a sister who had a son in the 5th grade class of a woman who lived on Paradise Lane told Professor Albert about the teacher's brand new litter of puppies. 12 in all. 12! The professor could not imagine so many puppies. He tried imagining 12 hermit crabs. So many bowls to carry. How did anyone manage 12 puppies? His neighbor had said that the puppies were chocolate Labradors. Chocolate Labradors! The professor imagined children finding these instead of chocolate rabbits in their Easter baskets. The neighbor said that puppies were round like beach balls and that they loved to play. They played and played and played. When Professor Albert heard this, something lit up inside him. Something from when he was a boy. It had to do with dogs and playing. And before he knew it, he was telling his neighbor, "I would like to have one of those puppies." So Professor Albert found himself in the family room of a 5th grade teacher on Paradise Lane with 12 fat little puppies running all over him and all over each other and all over everything else in the room. He was delighted and overwhelmed and could hardly catch his breath, and he wondered how he would ever choose just one puppy from so many. They all looked pretty much the same. Should he just pick one up and go? What do you think? But as he was trying to figure all of this out, one of the happy puppies crawled onto his lap and stayed. It stayed and stayed and stayed. The other puppies romped across him, licked his face, and ran off. But this puppy stayed. The 5th grade teacher said to Professor Albert, "Of them all, that's the one who likes to be held the most. He likes company. He'll be glad when he's the only puppy somewhere." Professor Albert smiled. He knew all about liking company, and this little puppy was staying. He took the puppy home, and he named him Kona, after his favorite coffee. And there in that house, Kona grew up. You have to see him meeting all of the puppies. Can you see Professor Albert meeting all of the puppies? And here's Kona. And there in that house, Kona grew up. Of course, Gwendolyn and Kona became best friends right away. Though Professor Albert couldn't always understand Gwendolyn's language, Kona could, and very quickly Gwendolyn assumed the job of puppy training. No, Kona dear, you are not allowed to chew Professor Albert's slippers. No, Kona dear, dogs do not eat encyclopedias. No, Kona dear, you must wait until you are outside to do that. Do you want to go outside? Then sit at the door and bark for Professor Albert. That's right, bark. Kona did everything that Gwendolyn told him to do, and Professor Albert said to everyone that raising a puppy was the easiest job in the world. And this amused Gwendolyn very much. We'll stop there, but we'll read more about friends tomorrow.